Hi, Greg Dell here with attorneys Alexander Palomara and Stephen Jessup. And guys, every week we get together and talk about cases that we've resolved on behalf of clients. This week I want to discuss a case, Alex, that you resolved against Prudential. So as we go through the case, we'll talk about the facts of the case, what you did, and then we'll share some of our other experiences from some other cases that either we're working on or that we've resolved against Prudential. So let's get right into your Prudential disability denial case.
So my client unfortunately was denied benefits by Prudential. She actually was paid for 4 months, and then Prudential out of nowhere gives her a denial letter, and she was shocked by it. Like 4 months after being approved benefits, a denial letter comes out of nowhere, and nothing has changed. So imagine getting a denial letter 4 months later, and medical records haven't changed. Your doctors haven't said anything different. Like, why would you get a denial letter? So she was shocked, but thankfully she found us. And
But you know what's crazy about that when you already say she's denied after 4 months? What was her elimination period?
3 months. So literally she was out for 7 months, and that 7-month period, nothing has changed. But she found us, and to give a little bit of background, she worked as a manager of the telecommunications system for a major multi-hospital health system in Pennsylvania. She worked at the hospital for almost 10 years. I mean, and that job is basically 12,000 phones. She's in charge of 12,000 phones, managed a team of people that ran, a phone system for at least 50 buildings, 911 system, emergency management system, being ready for anything that comes up, has to coordinate different parts of the hospital, make sure everyone has what they need, because hospitals have to have communications at all times.
Right.
Various people need various things, or emails, phone systems, whatever it needs. She's in charge of it, right? The problem with her is that not only does she suffer from arthritis, she also suffers from Charcot-Marie tooth disease. Not a tooth disease that you're thinking of. It's a neurological disorder where people have a progressive loss of muscle tissue, suffer from a lot of pain, a lot of fatigue. She's been diagnosed with it for years, but has worked through it for years, right? Has been working through it, but unfortunately she suffers from falls. She suffered a fall in early 2023, hit her head, ultimately had to make this claim for disability benefits. And initially she got short-term disability turned into long-term disability. Long-term disability, again, they approved her claim and paid her for 4 months of benefits. And after 4 months, Prudential sends her a denial letter relying upon a independent, quote-unquote, independent occupational doctor who says, no, I think she can do her job. And they call her job a sedentary job. Says, I think she can do her sedentary job. First and foremost, the incorrect doctor to perform a review of her medical records. Secondly, her job is not sedentary. So Prudential got it wrong.
What kind of doctor did they use?
An occupational medicine doctor, which is kind of like they do it on a regular basis. They don't use, when they don't want to use a specialist, they use someone, a jack of all trades. That's kind of what I see those doctors.
Like Stephen, who goes to an occupational medicine doctor?
I mean, the ones only usually do is if it's a workers' comp doctor, right? Because they're doing the assessment. Are they able to get back into a workplace on it? I can't think of anyone that sees one other than that for that purpose, Occupational medicine, or sometimes they'll, like a physiatrist, which people do actually treat with those. But occupational medicine, that's usually just, in my experience, a workers' compensation review doctor.
Physiatrist is physical medicine and rehabilitation. And the idea there is to get you back, to get you back to work if you can, and also manage your pain. An occupational medicine doctor, are they basically like a forensic doctor?
It seems that way. I mean, what I see of occupational medicine doctors, I only see them in denials of long-term disability insurance claims.
Right.
And they always seem to be denying all my clients' claims, all potential clients' claims that I talk to. And it seems to be, I always shake my head. And I'm like, what do these doctors do for a living other than deny claims? I don't know.
It's them and aerospace medicine doctors, like reviewing claims.
Alex, you said a quasi-independent doctor for that Prudential hire. Why did you say that?
Because I see the same names over and over again, and all I see, they might call themselves independent because they don't technically work for Prudential. They don't, they don't get insurance benefits through Prudential. They're not employed by Prudential. They don't get their salary through Prudential. They're independent. Maybe he has his own practice, or maybe he works for MES or one of these other companies where they go out and if what Prudential does, they go out and hire these independent companies who says, all right, we found a doctor for you to do a review for your claim, and this doctor does a review for the claim. And more often than not, they use these reports to deny the claims. So they're independent, but each time I review these reports, they always seem to favor the insurance companies, if their goal of denying claims. When I say favor the insurance companies, so it seems to be the goal to deny claims.
Alex, your client has what's basically a neurological disorder, also the arthritis condition as well. How can this, what do we call him? Occupational medicine doctor. How could he make a determination without even examining the patient, the applicant, and then also like be so sure to say there's nothing wrong with you without even examining the patient?
Well, they're lazy. So what they do is they rely upon what we call paper reviews. So what the paper review is, they just take all the papers so anything that you submit, anything that your doctors submit, anything that the insurance company compiles, it all gets put inside the claim file. Now, the person in charge of your claim, if you're a claimant, person in charge of your claim, the claims handler, whatever you want to call them, sends the medical records, supposed to send all the medical records to this independent doctor to perform a review. Do they get all the medical records all the time? I don't know. Sometimes it doesn't seem that way. Sometimes they list what medical records that they did review. Sometimes it seems a little bit short. But all they do is perform a review of those medical records. They never speak with the actual claimant. They never, more often than not, they don't even speak to the actual doctors. If they do try to reach out to the doctors, it's always at the most inopportune times. Like maybe they call it 9:30 on Monday morning or 4:30 on a Friday afternoon. It's like, what doctor's office is going to be able to answer? What doctor is going to be able to speak to a independent doctor at that time, at these inopportune times? And so they don't speak to you, they don't speak to your doctor, and all they do is review the medical records, and they say the medical records are not enough to justify continued benefits. Well, a few things is wrong with that. And the first thing is, more often than not, medical records are not written to convince this doctor in an ivory tower that their patient's disabled. The medical records are written to treat somebody. So the next time the doctor sees you, you go, "Oh yes, good to see you again, sir, or ma'am. Last time you were here, this is what you were complaining about, and here's how are you doing now." So they're not written to convince somebody that somebody is disabled, but more often, but they can convince somebody.
Right.
But
they're written to treat the patient. They're written as a reminder for the doctor who, between the visit with that patient and the next visit, could be that doctor sees 500 to 1,000 patients if it goes a month or 2 months, down the road. So the doctor is not necessarily going to remember, nor should he or she be expected to remember every single patient. So they're notes to remind the doctor what's happening. Also, guys, we always say that the doctor treats the patient, not the chart. So the doctor is going to look and say, "Hey, what did you tell me last time? What was in here? But I'm listening to you. I'm here for you, patient, to try to get you better, to try to get your symptoms under control."
Well, I also think the weird thing in this situation, though, is those records that this guy's looking were the records that were just used to approve. 100%. So that's what doesn't make sense. So where's the doctor who looked at it initially and said, "Yeah, this is evidence of disability"? So now you have just this new guy being the only doctor, Prudential or otherwise, that's found that your client isn't disabled.
And what these independent doctors do is, and we talk about this all the time in all of our videos, is they highlight words that say mild, doing better, or
Right.
It's a frustrating experience. They overlook anything in the medical records that say that the person's suffering or any complaints they have, and they highlight something that says that the person says they're doing fine. Well, their fine might be fine for them, or just like maybe their pain is only a 7 today, which is fine for them, but a pain for you and I at 7 might be a terrible day for us,
Right.
So it's a very frustrating experience what these independent doctors do on a regular basis.
All right, I want to get to what you had to do and what you did for this client in order to get the benefits reinstated.
So we knew it was a BS denial, right? But we can't just say this is a BS denial, look at the medical records, overturn this decision, because it'd be crazy. You're going back to the insurance company that just denied the claim. What they're going to do is they're going to find another independent doctor to agree with their first independent doctor and just deny the claim again. And then now you're at a lawsuit with no good support for your claim. And the judge is going to have to uphold their decision, because ERISA lawsuits are tough, because you have to prove, that there's an arbitrary capricious standard, and you have to prove that their decision was arbitrary. And they're going to say, "Judge, we had 2 doctors say that
Right.
person's not disabled." So what did we do here? We did a lot. First thing I did is I sent my client to physical functional testing by way of a functional capacity evaluation. So I had my own independent physical therapist run my client through hours-long testing, physical testing. And that physical therapist said, your client has a below sedentary demand level ability to work. So they couldn't even do a sedentary occupation. Not only that, I mentioned earlier my client had a fall. My client hit their head. Cognitive impact. My client had forgetfulness, cognitive issues since that fall, headaches as well. So I sent her to another independent consultant, an independent clinical psychologist who conducted a cognitive functional assessment. And this assessment came back saying that, yes, my client had cognitive impairment that impacted her ability to do her job. I gave this clinical psychologist a copy of the job description from her employer, from my client's employer, and the clinical psychologist said there's no way that she can do this job. Third thing I did, I went to our own vocational rehabilitation consultant and I said, hey, listen, Prudential is saying my client's job is sedentary. Here's the job description. Here's what my client describes her job as. What are your thoughts on this? And this independent vocational rehabilitation consultant said, this job is not sedentary. It's a light duty job. And based on everything you showed me, and I showed him medical records as well, there's no way your client can do that job at this time. Also, we sent all these results of this test, we sent it to my client as well. Meanwhile, she applied for Social Security while we're writing the appeal. Social Security approved the claim. So we got all this evidence into the insurance company, and within 28, and beyond that, I got a copy of the claim file from Prudential, got a copy of the review of the occupational independent doctor, poked holes in that review, put all this together. So I put all this evidence that we compiled and created for this client's case. I poked holes in the review that Prudential was relying upon to deny this case, and I basically threw it at Prudential and said, you guys really messed up here, reapproved my client's claim at once. And within 4 weeks they did, which is pretty quick for Prudential, honestly.
Another thing I know you did that you mentioned to us beforehand, but you didn't just mention now, was you also went back to her treating doctor.
Of course.
And took all of that information as well and said to the treating doctor, here's now some objective evidence for you to review which supports her disability, and that doctor then writes an opinion or fills out a custom attending physician statement that we draft for the doctor to provide additional support. Also, I know you had the doctor comment on the review from this so-called independent occupational medicine doctor to say that doctor is full of BS,
right?
as you say. So it sounds like you did an amazing job. I'm sure the client was happy that you were able to get it reversed. And now the client is in a position where the client's getting paid and getting checks every month, and you're continuing to manage and monitor the claim for our clients so that her benefits don't get denied again.
Of course.
Well, great job. If you're someone out there who has a claim with Prudential, feel free to reach out to myself, Alex, Stephen, any of our lawyers. No matter where you are in the country, we're available to assist you, and we'll always provide you with a free initial phone consultation.